Good morning. I have one announcement before we get started. In your folder, there is an agenda, and we had a change this morning. Interim Director of DCFS, Deborah Dyer Webster, was not able to join us. Maria Miller, Regional Administrator, will be speaking in her place. Again, good morning, everyone. I am Denise McCaffrey. I am the Executive Director of Prevent Child Abuse Illinois. On behalf of our partners, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, HSHS St. Mary's Hospital, and the Macon County Court-Appointed Special Advocates, I'd like to welcome you to this April 2019 Child Abuse Prevention Month kickoff event. I'd like to thank the Macon County Board offices for hosting our event, and a special thank you to Governor Pritzker for being with us here today. And I'd also like to thank all of you for taking time and joining us this morning. We come together today to announce and recognize April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Across the country, thousands of individuals and organizations will be holding press conferences, sponsoring community events, planting pinwheels, tying and wearing blue ribbons, and literally turning our communities blue by lighting up buildings, decorating trees, and painting sidewalks. All of this to raise awareness that all children deserve great childhoods, and we all have a role to play in preventing abuse and neglect. Preventing abuse and neglect is about keeping children safe. Safe in their homes, safe in their schools, safe in their communities, our communities. And that safety must stretch throughout their lifespan, throughout their infancy, their childhood, their teen years, and into their adulthoods. After all, children are our future. We know if a child experiences trauma in their childhood from abuse and neglect, that child can experience lifelong consequences, including health, mental health, substance abuse issues, and that's just to name a few. As adults, we all have a responsibility to keep children safe. So what can we do? Parents can learn right from the start about safe sleep environments for their babies. A safe sleep environment means babies sleep alone, on their backs, in a safe crib or playpen. Parents can learn about shaken baby syndrome and learn that shaking a baby or toddler can be deadly. Parents can learn the facts about child abuse, child sexual abuse, and neglect. Maybe one of the most important things parents can do is they can reach out for help when they need it. Parenting can be one of the hardest jobs we do. We don't hesitate to reach out and ask for help when our car breaks down and we don't know how to fix it. We shouldn't hesitate to reach out when we need help being a good parent. What about the rest of us? What can we do? Lawmakers, as Governor Pritzker well knows, can fund programs and pass laws that put children and child safety first, like supporting home visiting, early intervention, child care, preschool, and after-school programs. Educators, law enforcement, civic groups, faith-based, and other organizations can create a culture where no one is afraid to come forward or to talk about abuse. The media can tell stories of child abuse, but they can also make sure they give equal time to solutions and to resources that are in our communities to help struggling families. And finally, each one of us can know that substance abuse, mental health issues, domestic violence, and unsafe communities all put children at risk. And we can pay attention to our families, our friends, and our neighbors who are dealing with these problems. We can learn the warning signs of abuse and neglect, and we can pay attention to the children that are in and around our lives. As adults, it's our responsibility to pay attention, to speak up, to intervene, to call the hotline when needed, and to be willing to have difficult conversations about child abuse and neglect, and to be part of the solution. So as we enter April, Child Abuse Prevention Month, I ask you to wear blue. I ask you to plant pinwheels and tie blue ribbons, but I also ask you every day, year-round, to help raise awareness, educate, reach out, and take responsibility for all children, because all children deserve great childhoods, and we all have a role to play in preventing abuse and neglect. So it is my honor this morning to welcome you all, to thank you for coming, and I would like to invite Kim Luz to the podium. Kim?
Hello, and thank you all again so much for being here today. HSHS St. Mary's Hospital is so very honored to participate in today's press conference to shed light on the importance of child abuse awareness and prevention. A child's only job should be to learn, grow, and fully develop into the very best and happiest person they can be. And our job as adults is to do everything in our ability to give them a safe and healthy start to life. At St. Mary's Hospital, we also believe that our job is to join with others to shine light on the reality of child abuse. 1 in every 4 girls and 1 in every 6 boys will be sexually abused by the time they are 18. This is inexcusable, and this number should compel us all to action. This year, as part of the St. Mary's and HSHS Awareness Campaign, we have produced a short video to call attention to the red flags of abuse and to help everybody better understand how they can be first responders, how they can identify the signs, and how they can report a suspicion. This video is available on our HSHS St. Mary's Hospital Facebook page. Additionally, St. Mary's is also sponsoring a free digital fingerprinting event on Saturday, April 27th from 10 to 2. Participants will be able to leave with an FBI-ready identification card. Any children ages infant through 18 years old are welcome to come with their parents. It is, of course, our hope that this card will never be needed. However, if your child goes missing, having a readily available identification card helps law enforcement launch a timely search and investigation. You know, once again, as Denise said, we all have a role to play in preventing child abuse, and St. Mary's Hospital is so very honored to join forces with Prevent Child Abuse Illinois, with DCFS, with the governor, and Macon County CASA for the safety of our children. Thank you all so much for being here to help promote awareness, to share resources, and to stand up and fight for our children. And at this time, it is my honor to invite Governor J.B. Pritzker to the podium.
Thanks, Kim. Well, thank you very much, Kim, and good morning to everybody. I want to thank Julia and the Macon County CASA, Denise and Prevent Child Abuse Illinois, and Kim at HSHS St. Mary's Hospital for joining us today, and to all of you who work to protect our children across our state. I also want to thank Maria and our Central Region DCFS team who work so hard to care for our most vulnerable children. I'm here today because keeping our most vulnerable children safe is a huge priority for me personally and for the state of Illinois. We know that there are real challenges. DCFS has been under-resourced and overworked for many years now. And across the board, Illinois social services have been hollowed out. The state agencies and organizations on the ground that keep our families together and strong have been decimated. My administration is working to rebuild that infrastructure. It won't happen overnight. Much of what we're up against is entrenched and has gone on for far too long. The work ahead will be hard, and we will face our fair share of setbacks. But I draw strength from the dedicated caseworkers and the child protection professionals who do this work day in and day out. It is often thankless work. These are the people who have the pain of losing a child in their care, who feel the grief and the outrage that we all feel when we hear that news. But despite the sorrow, these caseworkers come back to work the next day. The people who care for our most vulnerable children, they come back to work the next day, despite the sorrow. They rededicate themselves to protecting our children and our families. They work even harder to do what's right for our most vulnerable. Since taking office, I've had the opportunity to sit down and listen to groups of our DCFS caseworkers in Springfield and in Chicago who work all across the state. I've seen and heard and felt firsthand their dedication to their work. And I've asked for their ideas about how we should move forward, because I don't think they get listened to often enough, the people who work on the very front lines. I want to be clear that my administration stands with them, and together we stand and fight for vulnerable children and families in every corner of this state. Last week, I was very proud to announce Mark Smith as our new director of DCFS. Mark brings decades of experience to this work, including as a former DCFS case manager, investigator, and supervisor. I also announced an independent and comprehensive review of our Intact Family Services efforts, with initial recommendations for reforms due in the next 6 weeks. We know that one of the challenges from the outset is the caseloads. We need more caseworkers, and my proposed budget begins to do just that, with an additional 126 frontline staff. We're also investing in the technology that our caseworkers need to do their critical work. That technology is vital for the success of DCFS going forward. And we have, in fact, a new leader of our Department of Information Technology, Innovation and Technology in the state who is going to help us do that along with DCFS. This is a start, but a great deal of work remains. And I'm deeply and personally committed to getting this right. Protecting our most vulnerable, keeping our children healthy and safe, and getting all of our families on a healthy path will be a guiding mission of my administration. Nothing, and I really mean nothing, is more important than protecting those who are most vulnerable in our society. I want to thank all of you for being here today, and now I'd like to present a proclamation. This proclamation, one of the great good fortunes of being governor of the state is the ability to declare an important subject matter, the subject matter that people should pay attention to in a month. And in the month of April 2019, we have declared Illinois as having Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I wanted to present this to Denise McCaffrey. Thank you very much for everything that you do. And all of you, thank you very much. Can we take a picture together? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask our DCFS personnel to come join us and continue our program here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to join all of you here today. It's encouraging, honestly, to see so many gathered who share common goals, the welfare of children and families in Illinois, and efforts to elevate an awareness and a call to action for the prevention of child abuse and neglect. At DCFS, we are often first responders when it comes to helping families who are in crisis. And every day, we see some of Illinois' most vulnerable children and families. Our critical mission is to assess their safety, to hear what they are saying, even when they cannot speak for themselves, and do everything that we can to ensure that they are better off as a result of coming into our line of sight. To keep our focus on our mission, we have looked at what we believe, our values, including that people have the ability to change. This has led us to a new core practice model which emphasizes the use of child and family team meetings where families are the decision makers about their future and what they need. Research shows that the more engagement we have with the family, the better the outcome and likelihood of reunification and permanency for the child. We currently have 4 immersion sites across the state, and we have begun to roll out our core practice model within those sites over this past year. We're using takeaways from those 4 sites to begin our first expansion that we are now including our private agency partners, beginning with DCFS and Caritas in the southern region of our state. We are focusing on what we think matters the most, developing our priorities, putting the children at the forefront, realizing that we cannot help a child without helping his or her family, and remembering that permanency is about the child. We have focused on reducing the time that very young children, ages 0 to 3, spend in foster care. We have been working in collaboration with private agencies, with DHS, home visiting to provide services that families need for their children to either remain at home or to reunify quickly. We have significantly reduced caseloads by filling frontline staff vacancies, and over this past fiscal year, we hired more staff than in the last 4 years combined. Thank you to our governor, who has made it clear that his administration is focused and a core priority is protecting vulnerable children by providing funding, as he mentioned, for 126 additional frontline workers for our department. We continue to increase the number of family advocacy centers across the state. We have added 2 in this last fiscal year. We've increased our support to Safe Families, who are present here today. It's a program with host homes where families can go for support and respite without becoming involved with the child welfare system. Significant. By providing these services, we have an additional set of eyes on a family to assist them and ensure that their children are safe. In closing, DCFS has a big job to do, and we cannot do it alone. It is critical that we join in collaboration, that we work together. We believe that together we can prevent serious harm to children, we can reduce lifelong childhood trauma. We all have a role. We all have a responsibility in this most critical work of supporting and strengthening families and children in the state of Illinois. Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce our host, Julia Livingston with the Macon County CASA program.
We're so glad you could all join us today. Over the past couple of years, Macon County CASA has been especially consumed with sort of paddling to keep up with the rising numbers of abused and neglected children coming into our juvenile advocacy system. With a rise of 45% in children coming into our county's care in 2017, and now with the large number of 584 children currently in our county's foster care system, CASA has really played an increased role in many additional children's lives. At CASA, we create relationships with these children. We help them to receive services to cope with their past and their current traumas. We ensure that they're in a safe current foster home, and then ultimately we're seeking to find a solution for the best possible safe and permanent home for each of the children that we're assigned to. While the community has graciously responded to CASA's call for help and advocacy for these children, we really all need to do more to help. CASA has now placed more of an emphasis and stronger efforts in prevention and in helping our community's families and children prior to DCFS and court involvement. Many of the families and children that CASA serves, they lack the support system of their own parenting community, which has led many of these parents to make, poor decisions. At CASA, we frequently say it takes a village to raise a family, and we truly believe that for all families. Each of the agencies that are speaking to you today, we all recognize that our community here in Macon County has support set into place to help every family and every need imaginable by our citizens. Macon County really thrives at filling needs. But we need all of these families to know about the free, available, and very easily accessible services that are present. Too often, our community doesn't know about these available services until they themselves need those services that each of the agencies is offering. I personally challenge each of you in this room to become more familiar with what our community has to offer and each of our agencies and their services. Share this information in a meeting, possibly, through a Facebook post or in a conversation that you're in at work. We need these vital services to be filled by families who need their help. Let's provide a parenting village right here in Macon County for all of our parents and all of our families. Because at CASA, we believe that together we can raise our community's children and really help to reduce the abuse and neglect here. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you, Governor Pritzker. Thank you, Maria, Kim, and Julia for sharing with us today the important things that we need to know about child abuse prevention. I think it was Maria that said it's a call to action. And as we go throughout the month of April, and you wear blue ribbons, and you wear blue clothes on Friday, which is Wear Blue Day, and We ask you to help us today to plant pinwheels outside so that everyone driving through the community can see that this community is dedicated to preventing child abuse and neglect. So please join us after the press conference this morning. Come out, help us plant some pinwheels, and thank you everyone for coming out and supporting the families of Illinois. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. I'm happy to take any questions.
Abuse, neglect, and we heard Julia there talk about the CASA cases. Is money the answer? Would pouring more money into DCF be the answer to help prevent some of these cases?
No, it's the beginning. Money helps you evolve. It helps you to train. It helps you to make reforms. It helps you to hire more caseworkers. One of the things that I hear over and over again is the casework load that so many people are carrying is so high, and these caseworkers feel guilty because they have to narrow by a lot the amount of time that they get to spend dealing with each case. There's so much more time that needs to be spent, and more kids that need to get the help of a caseworker and need the help of DCFS more broadly. So, but it does take resources. You can't do this for free. And as you know, the way that DCFS is organized requires that we have great partners outside of state government. And so we've got to work closely with them, make sure that they've got the right training that they need, that we've got to stop hollowing out state government. I use that term because when you don't know, when you're standing outside looking at state government, you can see the challenges that we face broadly. But when you get inside the agencies, you really feel it. You can see where the challenges are, and you know that we've got to fill it with people, you've got to fill it with resources, and that's what we're trying to do.
You mentioned adding some staff in your spoken words there. How fast can they be brought online, or do we have to wait for the legislature to approve a budget at some point?
So let's start with the fact that, when I walked into office, I, had no control over the budget that is currently in place. What I can do as governor is try to move some of the resources around within an agency in order to put it where it's most needed. And so many of you have heard that we're in process now. In our budget, we have budgeted 126 new caseworkers. Not enough, but it's the beginning of what will be more caseworkers for DCFS. But waiting until the beginning of the fiscal year doesn't seem right to me at all. And so within our agency, what we've done is begun the process of the hiring of people. That is to say, you've got to identify people, you've got to make sure that those people get vetted, that they're fully interviewed, that they're ready for action when the moment comes when we can bring them on board. And in some cases, we can bring them on board even before the budget begins July 1 or the new fiscal year begins. But suffice to say that our main goal here is to get on this as quickly as possible and with as many resources as we have available to us today.
After your nationwide search, why did you decide to bring in someone that's worked with the department as opposed to bringing in someone with fresh perspective?
Well, it's a great question. We did some national searches for just very few of my cabinet posts. Some of the most challenging ones. I mentioned DoIT, the Information Technology Department. And DCFS is, of course, one of the most challenging agencies for any government. And it's true also of governors around the nation. When you talk to them, this is the area in which they often have the most challenges. So we looked everywhere in the nation. We hired an outside firm to talk to everybody that we could, to bring them in. We had a ton of interviews that took place. We talked to a lot of folks. Maybe you should be glad to hear this. The best person for the job was here in Illinois. I thought, well, let's talk to everybody. Maybe we'll find somebody in another state who's better. But the truth is the best person for the job was here. This is somebody who has worked at DCFS inside DCFS before, then worked outside DCFS as a partner with DCFS, became a senior person in that organization, and now is going to come back with the perspective of someone who's been on the front line. So I really think that's terrific. And then together, just to give you some confidence here, together with his, bringing the experience that he's got that I think will be different and vital, We're also bringing in, as you know, Chapin Hall from University of Chicago to work alongside him over the next 6 weeks. Even before he's started the job in state government, he's already been in meetings to get ready for the job, and he's already spoken with the folks at Chapin Hall. So I just wanted to give you a broad sense of we're putting resources to this that I don't think have been put to DCFS for some time, and we've found, I think, the best leadership and advice that we can bring to bear. And all of that over the next 6 weeks is going to come back with recommendations for our new director, Mark Smith, to carry out.
Will the deputy directors underneath Mark Smith stay the same, or are we thinking of bringing in fresh perspective to help him?
So I have a philosophy about my departments in state government and about management in general, that what you ought to do is, rather than wipe everybody out who's got institutional memory, what you ought to do is bring in a leader, and the leader should choose among the people that work for the department and among people outside who they would like to have in their senior leadership. Now, they're going to do that alongside the governor's office, because I'm going to have some opinions about this, and our staff and our senior deputy governors are going to have opinions about this. But it's very important to do what you described. Get outside perspective and bring institutional knowledge to the table. You don't want to wipe everything away and say, well, we just need a brand new perspective, bring people in who don't know Illinois and don't know the history, and just have them, start up fresh and, without any knowledge. So you want a mix of those two. We definitely need fresh perspective. You also need people who understand the systems that have built up, how it once was, how it's become, and what it needs to be.
And last month we had a week ago, we had our third child death with DCFS related connection in 2 months. What are your thoughts on the death of fire in Casanova?
I can't tell you how personally distressing it is. Every time I have been notified that a child that is either under the care of DCFS or is affected by services that the state of Illinois provides has been injured or has died. Just want you to know, for me personally, I believe this is the most important thing that government can do. Protecting these children. And we're not going to be perfect at it. There's no doubt about it. We're talking about tens of thousands of children across the state of Illinois, but we've got to be better at it. We've got to be better at it. And you can see what's happened. This term I've used, hollowing out, that within the agencies, they don't have enough people to do what they once were able to do. And their agencies outside for years weren't paid. And they had to cut staff. Some of them closed their doors. So how can you possibly serve these children well when things have diminished to a point where we have these terrible tragedies happening all too often? So I'm all I can say is that there's nothing more important to me than protecting the children who are under the care of the state or that the state has monitoring responsibility over. And I'm going to make sure that we enhance it, that we improve it, and do the best job that we can do.
You mentioned that putting more money towards the budget would be the start to this. Can you talk a little bit about if that money has already been set aside, how much, and if the money isn't there, what's the next step? Where are those resources coming from?
Yeah. It's certainly the most challenging thing as a governor. I will say I talked to other governors prior. I've spent a lot of time with Governor Edgar, though he's of a different party, with some experience in the job with legislative leaders and so on. The resources issue for the state of Illinois is confounding. All of you, that we have fiscal challenges in the state. That shouldn't keep us from protecting these children, and it won't. But we have fiscal challenges that make it so that you can't just say, well, we'll just allocate a whole bunch more money today. What you can do is reprioritize within departments, focus on where the real issues are. Anna knows, other people know that there have been real challenges, particularly as I've seen under, in the last 3 months within intact family services. And so we've got to move resources around within the the department to make sure that we're shoring up the challenges in intact family services, and that we move quickly to try and hire the new people that will come on board as a result of the new budget that I proposed. Look, when I look at the state budget, as I say, it's confounding because the resources aren't there, and it's one of the reasons why nobody, as a newly elected governor, wants to stand up and give a budget address in which you essentially say to the state of Illinois, we need more revenue. That's not the dream of anybody who runs for governor or becomes governor. It is my goal to help us overcome the fiscal challenges that we faced so that we can fund the very services that the most vulnerable Illinoisans need. That has been neglected for too long. I view it as one of my top priorities to make sure that we're putting those resources where they are most needed.
Last question. You mentioned hiring more caseworkers. I'm wondering if to start, how many are we working toward, and how many cases is each caseworker need to have?
The answer is I'm asking Chapin Hall and I'm asking our new director to do a full assessment and recommendation of what the real needs are. And how we can do this. Look, you've got to do it in the most effective fashion as well as in the most cost-effective fashion. But the reality right now is we have to protect our children. So the immediate cause here is let's put resources to where they're needed today, the resources we have today, and then let's identify where we need to go, and we can hopefully, in gradations, and quickly move toward it. And just want to say one last thing. I know this is not a press conference about the fair tax, but I want to be clear to you that one of the reasons that I proposed the fair tax for the state of Illinois is because we have these agencies that cannot serve the functions that they were set up to serve without resources. And unfortunately, over the last 4 years, as a result of the budget crisis and the fact that we consistently underfunding, particularly these areas, that we need revenues and we need to find some cost-saving measures within the agencies. Together, that will allow us to put resources to protect these children.
Thank you, everyone. Take like 3 years to go into effect.
No, it's a year and a half.
Thank you.
Thank you.